I paid $4.76 in Atlanta, Georgia in the year 2020 for 2 little egg bites. If you know me, I'm not about that lifestyle. I think that's a little bit pricey for 2 little egg bites. $5 for these things. Is this crazy or what? I think that's crazy. I mean, this little container is cute. Maybe that's where the $4 went to. As for the 76 cents, I don't know. Oh, and I got a bunch of napkins right here and a fork. Plastic fork. And my bag. Can't forget my Starbucks bag. I'm gonna show you how to make this at home without a sous vide machine because those are kind of pricey, and I'm gonna show you how to make them at home in your oven. They're gonna turn out amazing. I'm gonna be eating them, and they're not gonna cost you $4.76 because that's a little bit too much. Let me show you how to make it. It's gonna be pretty easy. Got you. They smell bacony. This one is perfectly rounded and gorgeous. Oh, it has a little like burnt caramelization from the, what is it called, the cheese. This one's a little woppy. We won't talk about that. And the bacon's on the side. So I think I'm gonna cut my bacon into small pieces. Do the bacon first, then I'll do the rest. Hopefully I get them nicely uniformed in a muffin tin instead of, I'm assuming, the little cans that they used. So I'm going to start off this recipe by working on my bacon. So I just like to bake my bacon in the oven. It just makes it a lot easier. So preheat your oven to 375, and while that's preheating, grab your bacon. I'm actually using this whole thing because I didn't know how much bacon I needed. Roll up your sleeves, cut it into thirds. And you're only gonna need actually like 12 of these, but I went ahead and just lined them on a cooking sheet with aluminum foil, and I just placed my bacon on this. I find this method is really easy to bake them. It avoids the mess and the stinky smell of bacon. Then bake them in the oven for around, I would say 15 to 20 minutes. This is what bacon looks like if you were curious. And then don't play with your bacon. If you have leftover bacon, put it in a Ziploc bag, save it for later use. And I'm just going to bake my bacon until it's nice and crispy. Once your bacon is really nice and crispy, I would take it out of the oven. And then I went ahead and I took out my bacon and I placed it on a plate that was lined with paper towels. Do this right away and just be careful because your bacon is hot, and try to get it to line up flat on your plate just so it doesn't like kringle or warp. So try to get it as flat as you can. And then I actually used the paper towel and took off any extra fat off the top. I just don't want a lot of fat on this. Then I went ahead and started on the second part of this recipe. So make sure your oven is actually preheated or lower to 300 degrees. Then I greased my muffin tin with some non-stick cooking spray. Make sure you do this so nothing sticks. Then I went ahead and cracked a bunch of eggs into my Ninja. Make sure you're using a blender way bigger than this. This was not big enough. Once you are done cracking your eggs into your blender, add in your shredded cheese. This cheese is just freshly shredded by me, and then I'm going to add my cottage cheese. I'm using full fat cottage cheese, but I think you can use low fat. It's just your personal preference. So I added all of my cheeses in. Then I added some salt and some pepper. Make sure you do this so your eggs have some flavor. Also, add in your hot sauce. I didn't. I totally forgot. Make sure you add like a pretty decent amount and then screw on your top like I am here. And take this and make sure you blend it until it is nice and frothy and light. I wish I would have had a blender to do this because I think I needed more space, and I think this really messed me up with the recipe. So I didn't end up blending it as much as I would like. So make sure it's light and frothy and blend it enough. Then take it off of the blender once it's like super light and frothy. And then the other mess up that I did was I added my bacon straight away into my muffin tins. I actually wish I didn't do this, and I wish I would have just added them to the top of my eggs. So I'm doing this kind of backwards, but I just added my bacon and then I added my eggs. But if you're doing this right, add in your eggs first and then add in your bacon on top of the eggs, just because that's kind of like how Starbucks did it and that's how they look. So that is, I think, my second mistake, or is that my third mistake? I think that's my third mistake of this recipe, and I'll go over them just to make sure you guys catch them. So once I've added all my bacon, you will get about 12 of these egg bites. I went ahead and added my eggs to a pitcher that has like a spout, so it's easy to pour and it doesn't make much of a mess. So make sure you do that just for easy pouring. I went ahead and poured this almost all to the top of every single well. You will get 12. Try to be as even as you can. Work slowly. You don't have to work super quickly just because there's no point of hurrying. They're gonna get to your mouth eventually. So I went ahead and did these all nice and slow. The bacon does rise to the top, but like I said, I do wish I would have waited till later, but I'm thinking that they would have probably just floated to the bottom. I'm not sure. So once you are done doing this, make sure you have a roasting pan in your oven and fill it up with about an inch of hot water like I'm doing here. This will help keep everything moist and cook evenly. Once you do that, add in your egg bites and bake them for about 30 minutes or until the center of the egg bites are just set. Once that happens, take them out of the oven and allow them to cool slightly, probably for about 5 minutes before you run a knife through the edges and kind of take them out with a fork. That's what I did. So obviously my egg bites do not look exactly like Starbucks. Neither is their texture exactly the same. And I kind of blame this on the fact that I didn't have a blender to blend these perfectly well like I would have liked. And then I wish I would have added my hot sauce, which I didn't. So this made my egg bites a lot lighter than Starbucks. Starbucks has like a deeper yellowish, reddish, orangish almost color, and mine were nowhere nearly the same color. And then since I added my bacon to the bottom, they did kind of float to the top, but I felt like since I added them to the bottom, they did kind of lose their crispiness. So I would recommend that you actually cook your bacon and then like crumble it and then add it to the top of the eggs before you cook them, because I think they will maintain their like crispy texture a little bit more. So like I said, they're not obviously the same, as you guys can tell from the close-up. And then in this one, if you look closely to the center, resembles the Starbucks egg bites. But if you do really want that texture, you can also reheat these in the oven, wrap them in aluminum foil, and the condensation kind of gives them the same texture as the Starbucks ones. And then here is the homemade one and the Starbucks one side by side, if you guys were curious. They're not exactly the same, but they're pretty comparable, pretty similar. So instead of spending $5 plus gas at Starbucks, you could just make these at home, your choice. Taste testing, comparing time has finally come. I have been waiting for this moment for so long. You guys have no idea. Granted, my egg bites look a lot different than Starbucks. Number one reason is because, well, I didn't use the sous vide machine. Second reason is theirs are a little bit darker than mine. Mine are a lot more brighter. This is because they put hot sauce in theirs and I completely did not. I just forgot, but you can add hot sauce and make yours a little bit darker. So far, I could tell by the texture that this is a lot softer and I would say creamier. This is not so soft. It's a little bit flaky, but I think that is because I did not have a big enough blender to blend them the way they should. But now I'm gonna taste them. I feel like Starbucks is a little bit behind just because these have been sitting and they're kind of cold. Mine are still warm. Let me taste them. I have my fork, but let's face it, I'm not gonna use it. I'm just gonna bite it because they're not even hot anymore, and I have my napkins from Starbucks. I'm gonna give Starbucks a taste first. So there's just smooth on the bottom and a little textured on top. Oh man, that's good. You can taste the cheese. The bacon, not so much. Not so much at all. Okay, my little turn, my turn. You can taste the bacon. I feel like the cheese is not so prominent. So they do not have the same texture as the Starbucks ones. They're definitely a different texture, but the center is interesting because it has kind of like that sous vide texture. I think Starbucks put a lot more cheese in theirs. You could definitely taste the cheese as opposed to in mine. And also cheesy. I feel like mine are more bacony. But if you're like me and not willing to spend over $2 for one little bite, make these. This is gonna sound bad, but I feel like these, the Starbucks ones, they have like a fruity taste to them. And I'm gonna say that's because of the drinks or where they're stored. A sous vide machine is $100. That's kind of expensive. I don't like having a lot of kitchen gadgets all over my kitchen. My kitchen's small as it is. I don't like all these extra components, so I'm not gonna get no machine. I ain't about that life. These are pretty good. Tastes a little fruity. Kind of remind me of the Starbucks drinks. Maybe like the pink drink. Babe, taste this and see if you think it tastes like a little fruity. It has like a fruity undertone. What do you think?
It does have a fruity undertone. That's weird.
It does, doesn't it? I wasn't expecting. They're still good. It just has like a pink drink undertone, under flavor. It does. Yeah. Let me see if this one does too. Okay, this one's mine. It doesn't smell fruity. Man, but that texture.
Your center is kind of like this texture, but the outside kind of dried up.
Yeah, the outside I feel like is a little flaky, dry.
But your center is...
I feel like this one's even more fruity. I'm not even joking. This has like the most awesome custard consistency ever. But for some reason, this is the first time I've ever had this that they taste a little fruity. Texture-wise, I would say that they're completely different. That is true.
The center is pretty similar.
The center, but the outside will throw you off because it's completely different. Obviously, I cannot mimic the same thing as the machine does because a sous vide machine, like it's completely, the product or whatever you're trying to cook is completely under a vacuum. So I think this is a great option to make at home if you are not willing to spend $5 every morning for 2 little egg bites. You can make these in advance. I'm thinking you could probably warm these up if you have some kind of microwave. I don't, but maybe in your oven or something like that. They're not honestly that hard to make. I'm thinking make like a batch, freeze them, thaw them out when you're ready to eat them. Eat them as you go. You guys get it, you guys get me. I hope you guys enjoyed this recipe. Make this at home. I know it's gonna be completely different, so I don't wanna hear that they don't taste the same, because I know they don't taste the same, and I'm not saying that they taste the same, but they're pretty similar. Make these, they're pretty cheap. And go to Starbucks once in a while and get some if you really do like the texture. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure you subscribe to me down below or check out my other videos. I'll have like a Starbucks recreation for you guys linked up. Also, if you guys are interested in that, check out my older videos, see how awkward I am. I'm always awkward, but you know, just so you guys get a little kick, a little laughter here and there. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.